Hello, I'm Gary Leland from the Crypto Cousins podcast. Now, if you're not familiar with the Crypto Cousins podcast, please take a look and subscribe to our weekly podcast at cryptocousins.com/subscribe. Now, today I'm going to answer the question, what is Bitcoin? The answer many people are going to give you to the what is Bitcoin question is Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. A cryptocurrency? What a terrible answer. I mean, if someone doesn't know what Bitcoin is, they probably don't know what cryptocurrency is either. Answering a question with an answer that most people won't understand, well, it's not really answering the question at all. Let's start by going to Wikipedia. If you search the term Bitcoin in Wikipedia, it says that Bitcoin is the world's first cryptocurrency, a form of electronic cash sent peer-to-peer without the need for a financial intermediary. It's the first decentralized digital currency. Now you see, they use that cryptocurrency in their definition too. They even use the term peer-to-peer. Now if you're a techie, that definition might make sense. But if you're a non-techie, you don't know what cryptocurrency is and you don't even know what peer-to-peer is. So Wikipedia's answer may be a little complicated for the average person to understand. So what is Bitcoin is still the question. Well, maybe we should start with the basics and answer a question that may be a little bit easier to explain. And that question is, what is money? I mean, everyone uses money, everyone has some money, but what exactly is money? Many people really don't know. You know, money is really just part of a system that's been put in place to help with exchanging products and services. For example, if I give you something of value, you might give me some money in return. Then I can take the money you gave me and I can exchange it for another product or service that I want, desire, or need. Now, throughout history, many different things have served as money. Almost everything from shells to arrowheads, even precious metals. Precious metals. Precious metals such as gold and silver, they have probably been the most commonly used items for money over the centuries. The fact that gold and silver are rare and a limited supply help it serve as a great store of value. But I do have to tell you, sometimes I really do have to question the entire limited supply thing for gold and silver. I mean, they've been mining gold and silver like forever. I mean, forever. The Europeans took boatloads back from the New World, and they still have not run out. In fact, they seem to keep finding more and more gold and silver, so I'm not all on that limited supply thing. But for thousands of years, gold and silver worked pretty well. You can weigh it, you can smelt it and make coins. I like that word smelt. Either way, it's pretty easy to assign a value to gold and silver. Now, back in 740 BC in China during the Tang Dynasty, the government at the time decided it'd be a good to use paper for money. After all, block printing had just been invented, and what better use could there be for block printing than making money? Now, this was the first introduction of paper money as we know it today. Now, I assume the same arguments that people make today about using Bitcoin were made back then about using paper money. Things such as, why should I trust paper money instead of gold or silver? Or, how about this one? I want to hold my gold and silver in my hands. I want to touch my gold and silver. They've been worried about their paper money getting lost even. Or maybe it could get burned up in a fire. So there are a lot of things they could be worried about with paper money when it first came around. Now let's advance to the future. And in the United States, paper dollars were originally gold or silver certificates. In other words, paper dollars were a piece of paper that basically said you own some gold or silver, and your gold or silver was being kept safe in a vault for you at the U.S. Treasury. So the U.S. government was holding your money for you. At any time, you could take your paper dollars to the U.S. government and exchange them and get back in return your gold or silver. I guess people still weren't all that excited about trusting paper money, so technically, instead of trusting paper money, they were trusting the government to hold their gold and silver and keep it secure for them. Now, I also assume it's a lot easier to carry around paper money in your pocket than it is to carry around a bag of gold or silver. Think about it, that would get kind of old if you had to carry around coins. It'd be like carrying nothing but silver coins right now, quarters, dimes, and nickels. It would drive you crazy. Now, in the 1960s, the U.S. government took the silver out of our coins. I remember as a kid, the quarters were solid silver. Then in about third grade, they started coming out with a little silver on both sides and a lot of copper in the middle. I'm not even sure if it was copper, but it was like a sandwich. Silver on the outside, something looked like copper on the inside. Then came the 70s, and President Nixon took the United States off the gold standard. Now you may be asking, what is the gold standard? Well, that is a system where the value of a currency is defined in terms of gold, for which the currency can be exchanged. So I guess technically there was some gold in Fort Knox for every dollar printed, which is the key word there, was. That's the key word there, was. Now the United States is no longer on the gold standard. Instead, the U.S. dollar is a currency that the U.S. government has declared as legal tender. It's not backed by anything except the word and good faith of the U.S. government. It is really surprising how many people that I talk to when I'm talking about crypto or something, they think the U.S. dollar is still backed by gold. Now, if you're under the age of 50, the U.S. dollar has never been backed by gold during your entire lifetime. Okay, like I said, they took it off, Nixon took it off the gold standard in the early 70s. The U.S. dollar is now what's known as a fiat currency, but so is the euro and almost the rest of the paper money out there. Now, if you're not familiar with the term fiat, it's a Latin word meaning it shall be. I guess that term's used for paper money because the government says that paper money shall be used as legal tender. Now, the actual definition of fiat money is inconvertible paper money made legal tender by government decree. So the government has said, forget about your gold and silver. You don't need that. All you really need is paper money. And that seems to be good enough since we're all using fiat money every day and most people are not complaining at all and not one bit about it. Now, one of the biggest disadvantages of paper money is the fact that it's easy to counterfeit. I mean, think about it. You see it on TV all the time, people counterfeiting money. Well, movies maybe. Now, that is almost impossible to do with gold or silver. In a few minutes, I'll even explain how that is almost impossible. Well, it's impossible to do with Bitcoin. Now, in today's world of computer technology, fiat money has been digitized, and we've started dealing with numbers in computers instead of the actual paper dollars, instead of the physical paper dollars you'd put in your pocket. Digitization of our money makes it much easier to count, move, and store. Most of the money you use today is really just numbers in a bank's computer. Think about it. What percentage of your income do you really touch in the way of physical money? You probably have direct deposit for your paycheck, then you pay your house payment and other bills online or with a check. You probably use credit cards or debit cards for your day-to-day expenses, for your everyday expenses. So the actual amount of physical paper money you really touch is probably a very, very small percentage. You are actually using digital money every day. You just don't look at it or think of it as digital money. You think of it as US dollars. Now, in some countries, they have completely done away with paper money altogether. In these countries, they only use digital money. So, Bitcoin is digital money not controlled by the US government or even any government for that matter. Now, that may sound a little crazy. It could even sound a little dangerous to some people. People who don't understand will find this confusing. Now, if someone has a computer file that represents $1, the question is, what would stop them from copying that file millions and millions of times, creating millions and millions of dollars for themselves, making themselves millionaires? Now we're back to the counterfeiting thing. And like I said earlier, counterfeiting can be easy to do with paper money, but how about with digital money? Now, this has really been the biggest problem in the creation and the use of digital currency, and this problem is called the double spend problem. Now, the banks, they have a solution to the double spend problem. The banks use a ledger system on their computers which keeps track of who owns what. The ledger system is known as a centralized ledger, and centralized ledger systems are what the world has been used to using for many, many years to keep track of currency. Now, the bank's ledger system keeps up with everyone's money. It tracks how much you put in the bank. It tracks how much you spend. It tracks how much you take out of the bank, how much you transfer. It tracks everything to do with your money. And since we trust the banks and the banks trust their computers, the centralized solution works and has worked in the US without too many bugs for years and years. Now, in 2008, a researcher published a paper describing how to solve the double spend problem without using a centralized solution. In other words, how to solve this problem without a third party involved like a bank. Okay, so without a bank involved. His name was Satoshi Nakamoto, and he was writing about Bitcoin. His description was how you can make a ledger system that doesn't rely on a single bank. Instead, using a centralized solution, he had invented a decentralized solution to handle the double spend problem. Now, you may be asking yourself, how does something work if it's decentralized? Don't you need someone or some company or some entity to be in charge of, or in control of it? You probably use a decentralized service every day that works perfectly for you, but you just never thought about it and you don't think about it as being a decentralized service. The internet is that decentralized service. The internet is the most powerful network ever created, but there's not a main office for the internet. Sure, there's a local place you can use for getting on the internet, but not for the internet itself. There's not a president of the internet company. The internet is just there, and it is completely decentralized. No country going down is going to kill the internet. The internet decentralizes information technology, but how does Bitcoin decentralize money? Well, like bank transactions, Bitcoin ledgers are recorded in a ledger, and the Bitcoin ledger is not maintained by a private company like the bank's ledger. Instead, it is maintained by the public. Thousands and thousands of people all around the world have a copy of the Bitcoin ledger on their computers. And unlike a centralized ledger system, anyone can download and verify transactions on the Bitcoin ledger using their computer. You can do it tomorrow. You can download a full copy of the Bitcoin ledger. Now, you may be wondering, if Bitcoin uses a public ledger, wouldn't that really cause a big security issue? I mean, if anyone can download it, wouldn't that make Bitcoin really easy to hack? Well, the answer is no, no, no. The fact that the Bitcoin ledger is public does not make it easier to hack. It actually makes it harder to hack. How many times have you heard of a bank or a Target or someone being hacked? That's a centralized thing, one place to hack, not with a decentralized ledger. And as an example, let's imagine I was trying to hack all the photos of Abraham Lincoln on the internet. I know this sounds kind of crazy, but bear with me for a second. Let's say I wanted to change what people thought Abraham Lincoln looked like. Maybe I wanted to replace the image of Abraham Lincoln with an image of myself, so my photo. I want people to think I am Abraham Lincoln. I could hack into a lot of websites like online dictionaries, maybe Wikipedia, and other websites about Abraham Lincoln. I could change the photos on all those websites to a photo of myself. So every time you went to one of those sites, you saw Abraham Lincoln, you saw a picture of me with Abraham Lincoln under it. But that would not really cause a big issue. There are just too many websites all around the world that would still have the real photo of Abraham Lincoln on them. So in other words, I could not hack enough websites to fool anyone. The Bitcoin public ledger works almost the same way as I just explained in my Abraham Lincoln example. That was kind of a weird example, so I hope that worked for you. But the Bitcoin public ledger is just too big and it's on too many computers for anyone to hack into it and change the information. The Bitcoin public ledger that was created by Satoshi Nakamoto is called the Bitcoin blockchain. And even people who don't have faith in Bitcoin, well, you always hear them say, blockchain is a great new technology advancement. So people do like blockchain, even if they don't like Bitcoin. You now know that Bitcoin is a digital currency, and you also know that Bitcoin is decentralized and uses the blockchain to confirm transactions. So let's go to the question and answer it. What is Bitcoin? That's what we started with. Well, Bitcoin is a decentralized digital currency. Since Bitcoin does not have a home country or country of origin, it has some benefits that fiat currencies cannot and do not offer. If an economy somewhere in the world fails or a government changes over hands, Bitcoin won't be affected like a fiat currency would, since Bitcoin is a worldwide currency. Who will benefit the most from Bitcoin? That's a question a lot of people are wondering. Well, in the beginning, it will probably be all the people around the world that don't have access to banks. Now see, in the United States, there's a bank on almost every corner. I mean, you can't help but run into a bank. But that's not true in most parts of the world. If you live in Africa, South America, or the majority of the third world countries, you'll find that banks are few and very, very far between. Now, while most people in third world countries, they don't live close to a bank, but they do have access to the internet, and most of them nowadays probably have a smartphone. That is what it takes to make Bitcoin valuable. And that's what makes Bitcoin valuable, should I say. With a smartphone and access to the internet, you have your own personal bank with you at all times. And by using Bitcoin, you no longer have to depend on a bank to receive or deposit money. You don't have to go to a bank to wire money to a foreign country. You can do it on your phone. Businesses all over the world are even starting to accept Bitcoin as payment for their products. I personally accept Bitcoin at both of my stores in Arlington, Texas. You can actually go to Leland's Wallpaper, or the website lelandswallpaper.com, or Softball Junk, whose website is softballjunk.com, and you can pay with Bitcoin. Now, the number of stores that accept Bitcoin, well, they're growing every day. There are even websites out there on the net to help you find these stores that accept Bitcoin. How about a Bitcoin ATM? Have you seen one of those yet? A Bitcoin ATM? They're popping up in a lot of places. Actually, I read the other day in South America, there are more Bitcoin ATMs going in than cash ones. Bitcoin could possibly change the entire world of banking, not just for people in third world countries, but for everyone, everywhere. Trying to explain Bitcoin time is like trying to explain what the internet was back in 1996. In 1996, most people had no idea what the internet was, much less had ever used it before. That is exactly where Bitcoin is at this time. Bitcoin is still in its infancy, but as more and more people get involved with Bitcoin and more tools are made to work with Bitcoin, we may find it becoming so important that we actually can't imagine how we ever lived without it. Kind of like having your Google Maps on your phone. How did you live without it? That's the way Bitcoin will probably become. Hey, thanks for watching this video, and I hope you know more about Bitcoin now than when we started this conversation. I'm Gary Leland. Thanks again for joining me. And don't forget, go to CryptoCousins.com/subscribe for more videos, podcasts, and other great information about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. This is a CryptoCousins.com production.